Hi everybody, this is the replacement lecture for CMST 102 Public Speaking for March 4th, 2013. That was the Monday that I decided to email you all at 2:30 in the morning and cancel class. I canceled class because, frankly, the roads were pretty bad, and we do have a few commuter students. Driving back from Omaha, it was the worst driving conditions I've ever had. I've never had a vehicle slide on me as much as we did on our way back. So I decided to cancel for that reason. But also, I think that even though spring break was coming up, I could sense in classes and in some of your speeches that a brief mental health break might actually be beneficial. So hopefully you took today to rest up, relax, recuperate, catch up on other work, something to get yourself back on track and kind of break out of that slump. And spring break is just around the corner, so hopefully everything is good to go. So, what I wanted to talk to you today, the first topic anyway, is speaking persuasively. I cannot emphasize how important persuasive speaking skills are, because everything from here on out is most likely going to have some element of persuasion to it. You have to persuade in your job, you have to persuade in school, and you have to persuade in your personal life. There are so many different ways that you are going to have to persuade people in order to achieve your goals. If you want to move forward in this life, then you have to be able to persuade effectively. But starting from the very baseline of persuasion, and that baseline would be the persuasive speeches in this class, I want to kind of frame the beginning of this discussion around topics, persuasion topics. Many of you struggled with the informative topics, which is understandable. It's hard to take that persuasion element out of a speech. It is. But persuasion topics should be a lot easier. You all have something. There's got to be something that you care about, something that you're passionate about, something that you see as a problem in the world, or something that needs to be changed, and it's something you can research and address. However, I do want to put a limitation on your persuasion topics. I want to be very clear that I don't want this to be flighty little persuasions like dogs are better than cats, okay? None of that. What I want to see are public controversies. Public controversies are those issues which are of huge significance to a large majority of people. These are real, relevant, recent issues that can be discussed. As I said, it should affect many people. But it also involves your choices as citizens. You as citizens have to be able to look at it, care, and do something about it. Now, I also want to caution you, though, that public controversies, not all of them make for good persuasion topics. For example, one of my students last semester gave a speech about drinking more water. Is that really a public controversy? Yes, it's something we don't really do. We should do more of it. However, it's not really a controversy necessarily. It's more of just a you should do this. It's something that we all accept we should do. We know it's healthy. We just choose to ignore it. The same is true with reducing fast food consumption. I had one or two of those, or in kind of related fields, I had students do last semester live a healthier lifestyle, exercise more, and frankly, as a instructor who's now got a year and a half, going on 2 years under his belt, all I can think is, my gosh, another one. Okay, if you are really passionate about it, you'll be able to find a new way to spin it and talk about the topic. However, I really want to encourage you to step outside of some of those basic eat healthier persuasions and really dig into something that has stronger significance and something that is a public controversy, not something that we already know about but choose to ignore. Something else I want to caution you on with your persuasion topics is you want to be able to deliberate in good faith. Now, the book expanded upon this, but I want to hit on the three key elements real quick here. So, for your persuasion topic, you have to be able to do three things to deliberate in good faith. 1. Be able to tell the truth, at least the truth from your point of view, okay? Lots of theorists out there say that there are two kind of theories on truth. There's capital T truth, which is that scientific, hardcore, this is fact, this is truth, okay? But then there's little t truth. Truths that are wide and varied and all dependent upon who you are and the perspective from which you view the world. That's the kind of truth that I'm looking at here. You have a particular view on the world that you are advocating for, so you are representing your truth. My caution to you, though, is to not misrepresent yourself and to not misrepresent sources. Don't be twisting things or twisting other people's words to make it fit with your truth. Find your own way to discuss this, okay? Second, for this persuasion topic, you have to be able to back it up with evidence and reasoning. Persuasion is not just about randomly talking about a topic. You have to have some really hardcore stuff to effectively persuade a lot of people. Now in this class, it's much less, I don't want to say less significant, but the consequences are much lower for, poor evidence or poor reasoning. So, if one of your arguments doesn't quite work, it's not like it's the end of the world. But I do want you to be aware that you have to be able to back up your arguments and back up your position on your topic in order to make this work, in order to give an effective persuasion. And finally, what you have to do is accept your burden of proof. When you take on a particular topic, you have to be able to accept the fact that, yes, I am going to have to address or prove these particular things. So for example, I believe in this class I've discussed the persuasive speech on our United States of America drone policies, our unmanned drones. The argument, or excuse me, the thesis, the action that needs to be taken is that we need to change how our drone policy operates. So what does that inherently mean? You have the burden of proof to prove that our drone policy is bad. The current situation is bad. Therefore, we have to change. And then, by contrast, you would also have to prove that the actions or the change that you are proposing would be better than the status quo, than what currently exists. So when you take on a particular topic, you have to think about the kinds of things that you're going to need to prove in order to make that topic work. Ask yourself, when I address this topic, what is my thesis? And as a result of my thesis, what kinds of things do I need to prove? What premises do I need to set up as true in order to make this speech work? All right? Before I move on, I want to give you all a little heads up since you've watched this lecture so far. I've decided that as an incentive to watch the lectures and not just blow this off for class, I didn't cancel class because I didn't want to cover the material. We need to stay up to speed. I canceled it for the purposes of safety, so I did want you guys to watch this. Therefore, here is your incentive. For each of these lecture videos, I am going to assign you one word. I'm then going to have an extra credit quiz on D2L open until the end of the persuasion unit, and you can take that quiz for some extra credit points. I'm not sure how many points I'm going to make it yet, but you will be able to get a few extra credit points out of this. So what you're going to want to do is write down this word. I'm not going to put it anywhere, so it's not easy to find. Basically, for this video, your first word is banana, as in the fruit that you peel. All right. Like I said, I'm doing this for extra credit. I want you guys to watch these lectures. I want you to take away the information from these. You're going to have probably 3 more words to come up. All right. So what I'll likely do is a fill-in-the-blank quiz in which you just write in the words. So keep that in mind. Keep these words recorded. All right. So moving on, the questions of topic. There are always questions when it comes to persuasion. Now, when you are looking at your topic, you're going to probably focus on a couple of different areas, but you may lean more heavily to one set of questions than the other. And these are the questions I'm referring to. Persuasion is based on one of three things. First of all, there are questions of fact. Is it the truth? And what we're referring to here is something true in terms of does it exist? Is something true in terms of how far does it spread, the scope of the problem? Is it true in terms of causality? Do these events actually cause these harms or cause these problems that you're discussing? Okay, so is the reality or the truth that we are advocating actually true and factual? Questions of value. Is this a good or a bad thing? Now, what we mean by this is how do we evaluate a fact, idea, or action? So when you have something that's more of a value question, or more of a value persuasion, you're going to want to discuss what we might call criteria for assessing something. You're going to want to kind of explain what would make something good, what would make something bad. Now, for example, in the drone persuasion, what makes this bad, what we established as kind of the criteria, is the killing of innocent civilians. Thousands of civilians are killed by drone attacks each year, and lots of them are actually responders to initial drone attacks that are then killed in follow-up drone attacks. It's really a bad situation. So then the value criteria would be the death of civilians. Your solution then, in order for it to be good, has to be able to say, yes, fewer civilians are going to be killed as a result of this policy. So that would be an evaluation of an action. You could evaluate a fact or an idea the same way. The point is something good or bad, and how do we actually determine whether it's good or bad? And finally, questions of policy. What will we do? And the questions here that you kind of have to ask as a result would be feasibility, advantages and disadvantages, and in overall effectiveness. All right. So really assessing the policy for what it is, what it can do, and how you are going to go about working with that policy. All right. So those are the three questions that you'll have to address in persuasive speeches. Now, again, keep in mind, you will probably have to address all of these questions in your speech at some point or another. It's not that you have to explicitly address them, but they're more questions that will help you to guide your speech writing process. They're the basis of persuasion. Your speech may lean more heavily on one of these question areas than on others. Kind of depends on your topic. So keep that in mind. You will probably have to do some thinking about all of them, but you may lean more heavily on one or the other. I'm getting close to the end of my video limit right now, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this video. We will continue in part 2 of this lecture series. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next lecture.